I'm pleased to say Timothy Spall and Colm Meaney are with me now. Welcome to you both. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us on the programme. Colm, the film had its local premiere in Belfast tonight. Do you accept it's a piece that is likely to be viewed very differently here compared to just about anywhere else?
Well, I think obviously the audience here is much more knowledgeable about the events that took place and much more familiar with them and familiar with the two central characters, Dr. Paisley and Martin McGuinness. I mean, I think when we were making the film, we sort of, which is. It was the end of 2015 we shot the film, which is like less than a year and a half ago, but events have changed so, I mean, the world has changed so drastically since then. You've had the Brexit vote, you've had Mr. Trump elected, you've had, you know, the Assembly standoff here. We kind of saw the film as being an inspirational story about two guys who come from very polar, you know, much polar opposite positions and managed to come to an agreement. And we saw it as kind of like, I suppose, a done deal here, and that it would be an inspirational story for other conflicts or conflicts around the world. So now we find ourselves here today, seeing the film that is very much relevant to here again. So I don't know that it's. I don't know that. I mean, I would hope that the film is a universal appeal and universal relevance.
Timothy, has the reaction been different here to the reaction you've maybe picked up elsewhere?
Well, it's only really, apart from Venice, which was a wonderfully well-received, and Toronto, it's obviously got to be different here because of its immediacy. And, you know, I said today after one of the Q&As, I said, you know, the thing about this story is that you people watching it are the experts. And I was always very mindful of the fact that and concerned that if I took this on, I wasn't going to step on anybody's, you know, sensibilities here. But the thing that pushed me across that worry was that when I thought about it objectively, the film, as Colin says, is a massive beacon of hope for conflict resolution. I mean, it really does go. It's a realisation, a take on a possibility. We're not purporting it to be a real, you know, story. It's based on a possibility that it's a massively positive story about two absolutely opposing ideologies, feelings. The world, I did from instant think it was ever going to be resolved, and they did it.
And you met members of the Paisley family today. What was their view on the project?
Well, I met Ian Junior Paisley and Baroness Paisley, and Ian, I think publicly has said today in the paper that he thinks it's a great, very positive thing. Baroness Paisley doesn't want to see it because of her obviously a massive memory of Ian, and it's still raw. But she suggested that she was quite pleased that it was happening, and I was very, very pleased to meet her and meet both of them today, because it was, as a human being to another human being, I was very concerned that, you know, this is a cherished memory and a cherished love. So I was very pleased. I felt very pleased to meet her, and I had a very nice time with her.
I mean, it is fascinating because people here, many people watching this programme tonight will have known Martin McGuinness or known Ian Paisley, will certainly known of them and will have liked them or disliked them very much indeed. Ian Paisley is now a historical figure because he died some years ago, but when you made the film, Colm, of course, Martin McGuinness was alive and well. He's now no longer with us, so he is also a historical figure. Has that struck you? I mean, you met him, I think, once, you knew him a bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it is the case. He is now an historical figure. I think he, you know, his death is such a tragedy. He was too young. He still had an awful lot to offer, I think, and I think he's sorely missed. He's missed in the, you know, today in the political arena. And of course, you know, as a personal loss to his family and that. From our point of view, it's a personal point of view. I would love Martin to have seen the film and heard some of his wry, humorous comments about it. I'm sure he would have given me a few pointers and a few laughs about it. You know,
And to what extent was that an issue for both of you when you were actually making the film? I mean, did you think about Martin McGuinness seeing the film when you were actually shooting it? Did that cross your mind? Did that shape how you portrayed him?
No, not really. I mean, you know, I mean, what made me want to do the film was the script. The script was beautifully written and by Colin Bateman and that's what we were going to shoot. So I knew that. So there wasn't any issue of you know, shaping it or honing it to please either constituency. And I have to say, I think Tim would agree that both Martin and his family and the Paisley family never asked for or demanded any kind of input or editorial input or otherwise.
Well, Timothy, what about the challenge of portraying somebody like Ian Paisley on the big screen? I mean, he was himself in real life a larger-than-life character. I mean, you don't come from this part of the world. No. As you're sitting here, you don't particularly look physically like him, and yet on the screen, and I saw the film the other day, you do look very like him, but you don't want that portrayal to lapse or to move into caricature or impersonation. So how did you approach that?
Well, obviously I was more, you know, acutely aware of his position here, and also, you know, you'd have to be blind not to notice that there was a man of huge idiosyncrasy and huge charisma, whether you agree with him or not. I mean, I don't think that was in dispute. But, you know, you know, I've played several people who have recently as well, who have been, you know, people who are still alive or recent historical figures, and I always have the same thing. My job is to look at what they are, take on board what they are physically and what they are idiosyncratically, but fundamentally your job is to make an emotional connection via your imagination and research. And I often go way back, and I try and look at pictures of people when they were children, before they had the layers, the tapestry of sophistication, to try and tap into things right down from ground level to see what might make people tick and make an emotional connection as well as an intellectual one, and absolutely empathise, which is different from sympathy, drop my own prejudices about anything and see it from their absolute point of view. And
what about the key issue which many people who've seen the film have talked about, Colm? The fact that this is a remarkable story. The journey that these two men took in reality was remarkable and frankly unbelievable and certainly unpredictable, but it happened. Many people say that in itself would have been a fascinating film, but what Colin Bateman and Nick Ham have done is take that and then layer on top of that another level of fiction. Does that help or hinder the telling of a remarkable story, do you think?
I think it really helps. I think, you know, you set out to make this story. We know they made this journey. We know they came from these, you know, very disparate positions and came together to an agreement. We don't know how they did it or why they did it. I mean, perhaps they may not even know exactly how or why it happened, but there was certainly some kind of a personal connection happened between these two people that helped them. They somehow started to see each other on a human level that obviously helped them move forward in the political arena. Now, we can only speculate as to how that happened, and we very much are very happy to admit that this is a speculation. This is a fiction. You know, we have created what possibly could have been the way they did come together, and that's basically, you know, all we can do. We don't in any way claim it's a documentary or it's factually, you know, what happened. It's simply our, if you like, homage to what happened.
Or what might have happened.
Yes, or what might have happened.
Tim, the interesting thing was just looking at some kids coming out of the showing this afternoon, and they were talking about it, and what they were saying to the person who was interviewing them was, I didn't know that happened. It's really fascinating. I didn't know that that's what happened. Yeah. Of course, the reality is that that isn't what happened, if you're taking it from a purely factual point of view. So what's the line, do you think, between fact and fiction in a case like this?
Well, but take the basic premise of a movie being an hour and a half. Now, we're talking about 500 years of trouble, and we're talking about a massive amount of things that have happened. I think to truncate all of the aspects of, you can do that. It can be, you know, they recently did a 6-hour documentary about O.J. Simpson. Now that's a documentary. This is a film. This is a theatrical conceit that pays homage to elements of the truth, and it's in itself, it's It's a very, very skillful vehicle at bringing, with an element of truth, a story together where these two intractable, implacable characters get a chance, based on truth, to voice an opinion which somehow tries to encapsulate this massive, massive, painful period in Irish history. And I think that's what it is. We have to accept that it's a movie and not a documentary.
Michael Sheen reprised the role of Tony Blair three times, I think, on screen. Are you the go-to people for Paisley and McGuinness in future? Would you do it again?
I don't know. It's been speculated we should do it on stage, but I don't know if either of us are up for that.
It's always going to depend on the script. The work is always on the page of the script, and if it's great stuff, who knows?
Okay, who knows? All right, well, we'll leave it open-ended like that. It's good to see you. Thanks both very much indeed for coming.
Pleasure to be here.